There's a phrase in medicine, which like people often say, which is that if the treatment isn't working, question the diagnosis. How do I find a way to make everything I'm doing more energizing? That was where my obsession with productivity started.
Ali Abdaal is an ex-doctor turned YouTuber who has become the world's most followed productivity expert.
I just followed the process in the book. It works. We made 6 times as much money as we did previously. And so now I'm a huge believer in just like, if someone has done a thing before, find a way to learn from them.
Ali built his YouTube to over 4 million subscribers and built his empire to over $5 million revenue a year. We're gonna dive into all his systems for success, as well as how he balances his productivity and finding his joy.
Don't know if this is appropriate for the podcast, but I was like, imagine I'm a cow.
Well, Ali, great to have you here. Congrats on the new book, Feel Good Productivity. Consuming it over the last few weeks, enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, man.
You know, I've been following your YouTube for some time now. You've obviously built it up to 4 million subscribers. For those of you that don't know, Ali was a full-time doctor, the #1 student to go through Cambridge Medical School in his year, or sometime around there, and has now built up a $5 million YouTube empire, helping other beginner creators kind of build out their creator businesses, all while doing it for only 4 hours a day. And so now they say you're the foremost YouTube expert out there, and I'm curious, you know, a lot of people that I think hear your story wonder, you know, is this even possible for me? Or is this just some like whiz guy that's kind of figured this all out? Do you think that anyone can do what you've done?
It's not quite 4 hours a day. But yeah, broadly, I think anyone can make a career out of making stuff that they love and teaching it on the internet. And if that's how we define what I do, which is basically what I do, then yes. Can everyone have a big YouTube channel where YouTube is specifically the thing? Probably not. I think, you know, if we think of the students that go through our YouTuber Academy, the ones who make it are the ones who have some sort of pre-existing unfair advantage. For example, we had a guy who founded a company called Soylent back in the day, and so he already, and then sold it. So he already had loads of money, already knew a lot about company startups, and he's making videos about businesses and startups. One of our students taught herself Mandarin in 6 months and then made videos about how she taught herself Mandarin in 6 months, and those videos blew up. And so if you have something valuable to teach, then educational YouTubing is very possible. But similarly, if you have something valuable to teach, educational Twitter, educational LinkedIn, educational newsletters, then like it's possible to build an online business teaching almost anything provided there is value being offered.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I do believe literally anyone can do it, because if you don't have a skill, you just learn the skill. And then 2 years later, you teach the people who are 2 years behind you. You know, the first online course that I made in my YouTube channel was a course on how to edit videos using Final Cut Pro. And I knew nothing about editing videos when I started YouTube, but I had done it for 2 years. And 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, I edited all my videos myself. And in 2019, I thought, you know what? I know enough to be able to teach a beginner how to edit videos. And I made this course, and it took me 1 day to film. It took a freelancer 2 days to edit. And that course has been making $3,000 to $5,000 a month on Skillshare for the last 4 years.
Wow.
Without me doing anything. I'm just like, whoa, I learned a skill, applied it for 2 years, made a course about the thing, shoved it on Skillshare, did basically zero marketing for it, and it made money.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you know, platforms change, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend Skillshare as a way to do it. But my point is, you can learn something, you can teach it, you can build a course around it, you can build a community around it. This is a very well-trodden path, and there are playbooks that even people like you, people like me, Brendan Burchard, like Russell Brunson, there's all these people who've made playbooks for this over the years, and all it takes is someone to dip their toes into it and start creating.
And it's interesting that early on in your success, you know, just getting it out there, creating something, it sounds like you just kind of whip something together in a weekend based on your experience, your skills, and just kind of put it out there to the world. And it's amazing just to see that kind of compound revenue happen over the years. I know there's a lot of people in my community that will be newer to it. They come in and they're not really sure like what their unique unfair advantages, like you had mentioned. How do you kind of like find that unfair advantage and then match that with your audience growth, and all the while kind of, you know, dial that in for finding your joy? Like I think for many people it just starts to get a little overwhelming.
I think it's very easy to connect the dots looking backwards. So
Yeah.
I think when I first started out on YouTube, I started making like music videos, like trying to play the guitar and get my friends to sing along. No unfair advantages there. I didn't know what I was doing at all. Those videos completely flopped. It was when I started teaching what I already knew.
Right.
So at the point where I started helping people get into med school, because I was already 5 years into med school and I'd already helped loads of people in real life, running courses in real life for my first business, I was like, oh, I have this valuable thing that I can teach, and I can just do it on YouTube. You know, the way that I encourage people to think about it now is that if you're playing the educational YouTube game, because the entertainment YouTube game is very different.
Right.
The educational YouTube game is, what can I teach that I would have wanted to know 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago? And whatever stage of life you're at, You have learned stuff in the last 2 years. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast or watching this video. And so what is that stuff, and how can you teach it in a useful way? And I actually think our mutual friend Dan Koh's stuff around this is just amazing. Like, I've been diving into his long form articles about this. He has the whole, he's got a whole playbook. So all someone has to do is like, watch everything Dan Koh has ever made. It'll take you like 48 hours to do. Great, now you have the playbook and you just execute the playbook. It's not actually that hard. A lot of the time, imposter syndrome and emotions and like perfectionism and like worrying about what other people will think of me, all of that stuff gets in people's way. And I definitely had a lot of that when writing the book. So, you know, I've definitely been through the experience of dealing with all those emotions. But on the other side of it is where stop treating it so seriously. You realize, actually, I'm just teaching something on the internet. I'm not forcing anything down anyone's throat. If I want to sell a course, great, I'll sell a course. Like, I'm not forcing anyone to buy it. So there's like a level of kind of don't give a fuck that you develop over time. But often it develops from like doing the thing and then realizing no one actually cares. And then great, that gives you permission to continue doing the thing.
Yeah, just before we got shooting today, we're talking about people like Tony Robbins or Russell, or even the fact that you've been doing this now for 7 years. You know, the longevity piece is a big part of anything, right? Like, you can get started on something new, but if you don't stick with that thing for a good period of time, you're not going to see the compounding results from it.
Yeah.
You know, some things I've learned from you are like just having like a studio setup, just always ready, always good to go, so that, you know, you're not having to set up, take down all the time, and kind of these little hacks you can make just to make the process that much easier, more enjoyable. I'm curious, like for you, like how have you been able to stay in the game for 7 years, and kind of how do you kind of keep it fresh, keep it fun?
Honestly, this is a real struggle. So I was watching a Peter Thiel talk on YouTube, and one of the things that was really interesting was he said that when it comes to companies like startups and stuff, most of their value is created 10 to 20 years after they've started. And so everyone is obsessed with growth when it comes to startups and investing in stuff. But actually, durability is way more important than growth, because durability is where you unlock the true value.
Yep.
And I thought that applied really nicely to the creative stuff as well. Like, you know, for my first year on YouTube, I made zero money. And then for the next year, I made very little, and then sort of slowly started compounding. And now that the business does several million a year, it's just insane. We're 7 years into it now. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, just on YouTube. And I did a business 5 years before then. Even 5 years before that, I was even trying to make money on the internet doing freelance web development. So if we take my starting point of when I started trying to do online business in some format, I was 13 when I started doing that and making a few dollars here and there. I'm now 29, so I've been in the game for 16 years, and it's only in the last like 2 that things have really started to get insane. Very early on in my YouTube career, I was initially making videos helping people get into med school, and then I transitioned to making videos helping students study for exams. And I always had in the back of my mind, this is not sustainable, because as I get older, people don't want to hear from a dude in his 30s about how to study for exams, unless you're like a professor like Cal Newport or something like that, where you then have that kudos. And so I knew that I would age out of that particular niche as I grew older. And I also suspected I wouldn't be interested in just making videos for students and medical students forever. And so I kept on asking myself, what is the thing, like, what do I have to do to make sure I can do this for at least 10 years? That's what I was asking myself like 5-6 years ago. Now I'm asking myself, what can I do to make sure I can do this for the next 30 years? Because I went to a Tony Robbins event, super inspired how the dude's been doing this for 47 years. And I was like, great, if I can sustain a 47-year-long career learning stuff and teaching it and doing what I love, that's pretty sick.
Right.
And so what that looks like right now is actually taking a step back on the upload schedule. Instead of going for 2 or 3 videos a week with like 5 shorts a week, we're going for maybe 1 video a week with maybe 2 shorts a week. Sometimes taking a step back and reducing the frequency is important just to be able to sustain the thing over a long enough time period.
And so I'm curious, like on the business side of your, empire you've built now, obviously it's been 16 years in the making. How has the business done this year in 2023, and like what are you looking to do next year in 2024?
Yeah, so business, I think this year we're on track to do around $5 and a bit million in revenue with about 60% margins. It's nowhere near the Dan Cohn 93% or whatever the number is, or the Justin Welsh model, or any of that kind of stuff, because we have a fairly big team of like 13 people and annoyingly large expenses. Next year, I don't know, like honestly, if we can sustain that, I would be very happy, because kind of my goal for next year is to try and decorrelate the business from me as an individual. Because one of the issues with this sort of creator business model, especially, my YouTube channel is like, I'm the front runner of it. It's not like something like Jubilee Media where there's a cast of characters and there's like an individual creator. And then the courses that I sell, people want to learn from me. And that means that I am always a little bit on the content creation hamster wheel, where the analogy I was saying to my team is, I don't know if this is appropriate for the podcast, but I was like, imagine I'm a cow and I start producing milk 7 years ago, and I'm like, it's quite fun producing milk. I find that, oh, hang on, people are enjoying the taste of this milk. People are liking the milk. And wow, this milk is getting quite lucrative now. Like, sponsors are paying money for this milk, and like, shit. And then I think, fuck, I've got a day job that I don't see myself doing forever. Could I make enough money from selling my milk that I can unlock my financial freedom, Tim Ferriss style? Let's build a farm around myself. Let me build an industrial milking apparatus with machinery and people and a 13-man farm around me, so that I voluntarily go into my little milking den, connect up the machine to my udders, and milk myself voluntarily to produce this milk, which is then selling for sponsors, and people like it, and it's getting me the book deal, it's getting me podcast into all the good things are happening because of all the milk I'm producing. And I've been doing this for 7 years, and the udders are getting a bit sore. And so, like, I've said to my team, the goal for next year is to try and remove me from the milking apparatus, so that me as the cow can produce free-range milk, i.e., I'll make videos when I feel like it. I'll make videos that feel authentic when I feel called to do it. I won't have a studio set up that's set up all the time, because I'm doing the digital nomad thing, as you've been doing for 10 years. Yeah. And I want to travel around the world and explore life a bit more. The goal is to sustain the business while I decide to take a step back from content. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but like one of the things a friend of mine said, who's also a creator, she said that growth can be found in ways other than revenue and profit. And so the growth that I'm looking for in 2024 is spending less time forcing myself or making myself make YouTube videos and only doing it when I feel like it.
Nice. And
it's almost like that midwit meme. You know the midwit meme where it's like right. A bell curve. On the low IQ end of the bell curve, someone says, I make a video when I feel like it. In the middle, you have like the midwit who's like, I batch everything, I'm productive, I do titles and thumbnails, I script, I look at retention graphs, I do all the things, I look at my analytics, blah, 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 I'm super consistent. And on the other end of it, the high IQ guy is, I make a video when I feel like it. And so I like to think that I'm moving beyond the kind of super, super optimized YouTube content production pipeline into more of a sense of, I'll just make a video when I feel like it. But also that's a luxury when you've been doing it for 7 years and you already have a base and you already have a team who's amazing kind of built around it.
Well, it's interesting too, you bring up like folks like, the solopreneur movement, people like Dan Coe, Justin Welsh, I think it's important that as people are building up their business that they find that kind of business that has founder product fit, right? It may look different as you're scaling it up. These businesses, at a glance, one person building a business at like a 98% margin can sound really great and be great for so many people. But for others that at some point want to kind of be able to remove themselves more from operations, maybe have less work relying on them, more of a team around them to help them scale it out, makes more sense.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like at a face value, some of that stuff I've found kind of looks really sexy.
Yep.
But in practice, like when you're making all that profit, you might as well be building a team around you to kind of help you out a little bit.
Yeah, and it's also more fun that way. Like I think about this a lot. I think like whenever I see Justin's Twitter or anything like that, or even Dan's stuff, I think, would I want a one-person business with 98% margins? And the answer is no.
Yep.
Like I actually really like having a team around me. They're great, they're good vibes, it's more fun. Now that we're all remote, we're doing quarterly retreats for a week. So next week we're in Morocco for a week in some sick Airbnb, doing like quad biking and sand dunes and like camel riding as one of our socials, going out for dinner every night. And in the daytime, doing some like brainstorming-y stuff for the business. And that's super fun. And yeah, it's expensive and it eats into our margin. Probably we could go 65% margins if we didn't spend money on team retreats. But the way I see it, like, I'm thinking a lot about the concept of a feel-good business, just sort of like a lifestyle business, but I'm trying to sort of like put my own spin on it. Like the point of a business is to unlock the life you love. Or broadly, the point of a business is to make money, to have fun, and to help people. And if you're doing those things, great, life is good. And so our business is making money, we're having fun, and we're helping people. Yeah, 60% margins is not the same as 93% margins, but it's still pretty healthy. And I have no regrets from the fact that I have a team around me. It just makes it way more fun, at least for me.
Yeah.
And maybe when I'm, I don't know, at a different stage in my life, I might think, you know what, let's pare things down. But certainly for now, it's like super, super fun working with other people.
And so in terms of the breakdown of the business right now, if you're doing around $5 million revenue a year, I'm curious, as you scale things out to next year, you're now traveling the world. You recently went nomadic, at least for a little bit. You got some epic plans, which we can get into. I'm curious how you apply that kind of like feel-good model to the different business aspects. And are there certain parts of your business you plan on kind of ramping up further to grow more, and then others that you plan on kind of eliminating when you apply that kind of joy filter to everything?
Oh, great question. We had an all-hands team meeting on Zoom yesterday where I was answering that exact question for the team. I think for me, there are two constraints that I want to live by, at least for now. One of them is I film whatever I want, whenever I want. So I'm a bit of a diva there. And the other one is I have nothing on my calendar outside. I think sort of 3 hours a week is the max amount of time that I want to be scheduled for like a one-on-one with my general manager and maybe office hours with the team or something like that. And so those are the two constraints. I film whatever I want, whenever I want, and just this, 3 hours a week. Or 4 hours a week, maybe, we'll see.
4 hours a week of meetings?
Yeah, or like max 4 hours a week interaction with the business. Like that's obligatory, where people are expecting me to show up. Nice. The rest of the time, I can follow my energy, I can read, write, learn, teach, make videos.
Be a free-range cow.
Exactly, the free-range cow producing the free-range milk, and then we DHL ship the milk via Google Drive to the team, and then they package it up and pasteurize it and chop out all the shit from the milk and make it, all that fun stuff. So what that means for next year is that what we're trying to do is build, there's kind of two main goals for 2024. One is to build in flexibility into the business. So if I film 0 videos in a given week or 8 videos in a given week, the team can handle that. And we figure out a way of dealing with sponsors and like our editors and our freelancers and stuff so that the machinery can kick in regardless of how many videos I'm filming. But secondly, the goal is to build assets that are decorrelated from my time. So one thing we're doing is building a daily productivity newsletter, email newsletter, inspired by Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic. And we've got like 10K subs on it right now with very minimal advertising. And that is a newsletter that can be written by someone else. I can provide some of the ideas, but actually I don't need to be the one typing all those things out. And that's a business asset that can grow outside of me. We are now running paid ads for our YouTuber course, working with an agency and working with Jakob, who's our head of marketing. And that stuff can run without me. Our YouTuber Accelerator is a $5,000 a year, like 12-month package, where mostly I don't have to do anything for it. Mostly it's the team providing support to YouTubers who go through the academy, and I show up once a month to do a Q&A, which is super fun anyway. So what we're thinking about is what are the assets we can build that don't rely on me? We're about to release a tech brand called Light Mode, where we've just kind of confirmed samples of a mechanical keyboard that we're releasing and a laptop backpack and some notebooks. And what I'm hoping for is that that tech brand can grow without me. And so really the first 7 years of this creator journey has been how do we leverage me as much as possible? And hopefully the next step is how do we not leverage me as much as possible and in fact leverage the collective brand and the power of the team to provide results for our students and to help people build a life they love while also making money along the way.
And so what are you hoping that kind of the breakdown looks like in 2024 between all your different revenue streams?
We are hoping to do £5 million revenue, which is like $6 million or something. So I'll think in pounds because that's what we think. So we're hoping that our YouTuber Academy will bring in 2 million between our self-paced course and our 5K offering, which we might hike the price of. We're going to launch a new productivity course off the back of the book. Nice. And productivity is like our main thing, and the total addressable market of that is way bigger than people who want to be YouTubers. So we're hoping that can be good. Probably a self-paced course, maybe a community, maybe a higher ticket coaching program. Would love to hear your thoughts on this if you have any ideas. We're hoping if that works really well, that can do another 2 million. We're hoping that the tech brand can do 1 million, and we're hoping that the content arm can do somewhere between 1 and 2 million in terms of revenue. So that, fingers crossed, will add up to like about around £5 million.
It was interesting. We were talking right before this too about some new methods you've been playing around and experimenting with on the course side of things. And looked like you made some slight adjustments to the social funnel side of things, implementing a newsletter, driving that towards the courses, and saw something like a 5x lift in course sales.
Oh yeah.
I'm curious, between cohort 7, cohort 8, where you saw just kind of this exponential growth all of a sudden, what were the kind of like secrets and mechanisms that you put in place there?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people, they're looking to build out their courses. They've kind of got something live, a digital product, something that scales beyond themselves, but they're really trying to ramp it up, and you're the maestro.
It's annoyingly basic. So
it often is, right?
Yeah, definitely. So with our YouTuber Academy, this is a sort of cohort-based course that we started in like 2020 in peak pandemic times. And I ran it for 7 live cohorts up until a few months ago, actually. And after 7 cohorts, I was like, okay, I've had enough. I don't want to do. I asked myself the question of, if money were no object, how would I spend my time? The answer is I definitely wouldn't do live courses anymore, because it was kind of draining, saying the same thing over and over again, live on Zoom calls, having to be in the same place, all of that fun stuff. And so we're like, okay, we're going to do one more cohort, and we're just going to sort of put out all the stops to make the final cohort the best one. And so cohort 7 did like 300K revenue. Cohort 8 did 2 million revenue on a single launch. And the only real difference between those two is, number one, in fairness, we did have this final cohort urgency, which was like a thing. But the other big difference is that in between 7 and 8, cohort 7 and cohort 8, I just read a few marketing books. So I read .com Secrets by Russell Brunson, $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy, and Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. And those 3 books, I was like, okay, it's a playbook. fuck, I've been selling shit on the internet for 10 years and I've never once read a book about marketing. Let me just change that and actually read these books. And I read those books. My mind was absolutely blown open to fucking smithereens. I was like, oh, okay, this is what a funnel is. This is how you make an offer, and this is how you copyright a landing page. I've been trying to make this up for 10 years, selling stuff on the internet. Why didn't I just read a book? And so I read the book. We literally went through $100 million offers as a team, page by page, and just did what Hormozi says. And we just built out the offer from scratch for our YouTuber Academy, just doing that strategy, listing out all the problems, like figuring out the dream outcome. The dream outcome being like, people want a YouTube channel that makes money while they have fun without working too hard and having the impact they want. Some words to that effect. Cool. What are all of the problems stopping people from getting to that dream outcome? We listed 50 of them. I don't know how to use analytics. I don't know what camera to use. I'm scared of what my friends and family will think. I suck on camera. I don't know how to edit. I don't have time. Like 50 of these things. We shifted those into solutions that Hormozi talks about. How to edit videos in record time. How to film videos even if you've never done it before. How to buy your first camera. The ultimate gear guide. We got 50 of those solutions. Again, we followed Hormozi. We packaged them up into our gear framework, our gear checklist, our how to hire an editor manifesto, our various different bits within the offer. We packaged them all up. We put a price tag on it. And so that was the offer. And we were like, oh shit, this is actually a grand slam offer. This offer is like, it's an offer so good people would feel dumb saying no to it. And I've never had that experience before in my life where I was like, I had that much conviction. And then when it came to the landing page, Jim Edwards' book, Copywriting Secrets, has a chapter about how to write a landing page, like the 13-step formula. So we literally went through and just followed the 13-step formula, and the landing page became really good and started converting really well. Just like, what? A guy who's an expert on this has written a book about it. I just followed the process in the book. It works. We made 6 times as much money as we did previously. And so now I'm a huge believer in just like, if someone has done a thing before, find a way to learn from them. Conveniently, a lot of people have written books and have done podcasts, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
And as you think about, the new course you have around Feel Good Productivity, you're thinking about this productivity course and potentially, a lot more streams based off that. Are there any kind of new fixes you'd put in based on some more recent books or any learnings you have?
Yeah, so for the productivity course, we have done a lot of market validation, user talking to and stuff. So one of my team members, Gareth, is in charge of product development. He's done like 50 plus interviews with people in our audience and people who've bought from us before, asking, hey, what are all the things you're struggling with when it comes to productivity? And so now we literally have a list of everyone's problems, and we are turning that into solutions and trying to make sure that the thing that we're teaching addresses all of the pain points. And so that is something that'll be interesting. The other thing, though, I think this is something I hadn't quite appreciated. There was someone I was speaking to the other day who said that everyone has a different sort of blueprint for success. And the thing she said to me, she was like, think back through your life and think about what have been the moments where you've been particularly proud of a success that you've had. What have been those moments, and what's been the pattern in those moments? And so I thought back, I was like, okay, when I launched my first business when I was in med school, I made that in a week because I had an idea and I just banged it out. When I launched my YouTuber Academy, we had the idea and within a week it was done. When I did the first draft of the book, I gave myself a week to just bang out the first draft because I'd been procrastinating on the first draft for like years, and it was done in a week. And then we could refine it. And I sort of realized that for me, a lot of my best work has been done under sort of very short sprints. That the way that we do course development now with a team is like, it becomes a 6-month-long process of like this and that and a song and dance and a whole thing and back and forth and sign-offs and all this shit. So part of me is thinking, am I just overthinking this whole productivity course stuff? What if I just decided on a given weekend when I felt like it, I'll just film it this weekend and just make it there and then? And I wonder how much more creative energy would go into it then. So that's probably what I'm going to do with the productivity course.
Yeah.
Once you know what the rule book is, once you know what the playbook is for creating an offer and doing a landing page and stuff, at that point you can start to break some of the rules. But I think before doing that, I was just making things up, not even realizing the playbook existed.
Yeah.
And so the biggest takeaway that I would recommend for anyone is that if you're trying to do anything, just learn from the people who've done it before.
Yeah. And there's that tricky balance though too, right? Like you built out this amazing team, you built out this awesome business, you got some like experts and specialists on your team now. That said, like there's no bigger expert arguably in what you're doing than you. You've been doing this for 16 years. Yeah. You got this, new productivity program you're coming out with. Like, yeah, the intuition to maybe just bang it out yourself, like just feels right, to be honest. Like it's worked before, and as much as you're the one that's put in the most reps possible out of anyone there.
Yeah.
How do you kind of like, based on your own productivity approach, how do you kind of decide on what are the things that you're going to delegate and the things that you're like, no, I'm going to keep these things myself?
The main filter is does this thing bring me joy?
Right.
And sort of the way I think about that is that question of, if I had 100 million in the bank, would I still choose to do this thing? If the answer is no, then I just don't do it. And either it gets delegated to someone or no one does it because we delete the thing from the business. If the answer is yes, so like for example, even if I had 100 million in the bank, I would still make YouTube videos. And I would still write my own YouTube videos broadly. Maybe I'd have like a research assistant or something. But I wouldn't want to get like a whole team of script writers and be a teleprompter reader. That wouldn't be fun. So even though I could delegate script writing, I would choose not to because that's a bit that brings me joy. If we were launching a new tech product line, I really enjoy web design and development. So I would love to explore Webflow and Framer and these new like ways of making websites and tinker with them myself. And even now I still tinker with like the CSS for our landing page because I like tinkering with like line height and margin and padding just to make it look a little classier. And so there are those things that are objectively not worth my time. We could just hire a web designer. But because they bring me joy, I'm like, great, I'm going to do it anyway. And again, the whole point of business is to bring you joy while making money and having and serving your customers. So great.
That's awesome. I was enjoying the book, and when I was reading through it, there's tons of different experiments, different lessons, systems that you've learned over the last while. As you've been building your business over the last 5 years, are there any core sort of breakthroughs you've had on the productivity side that like one stands out as like that really helped change the trajectory of my career?
Two things come to mind. The first one was pre-team and the second one was post-team. So pre-team, when it was just me, for the first 2 years, I was working full-time and I was trying to do YouTube on the side. And that was where my obsession with productivity started, because I'd be working full-time as a doctor and I'd be super drained at work, and then I'd get home from work and think, I don't have the energy to edit a freaking YouTube video, like, come on. And I tried going down the rabbit hole of productivity and finding all this advice around like discipline and grit. And I was just like, maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. Maybe I'm just, I don't think David Goggins was that popular back then, but like there was this whole like discipline narrative. Like there's this quote from Muhammad Ali that something to the effect of, I suffered every day in training for 10 years, but it was worth it to become a champion. And I was like, bloody hell, that doesn't sound fun. I don't want to suffer for 10 years to become a champion. Screw that. And there's a phrase in medicine, which like people often say, which is that if the treatment isn't working, question the diagnosis. You're probably doing something wrong. And so my treatment there was I was trying to just work harder and be more disciplined, and it just wasn't working because I would find myself with no energy. So I questioned the diagnosis, and I was like, okay, how do I find a way to make everything I'm doing more energizing? Because energy was the thing I was struggling with. It was like I'd get home from work and I'd be drained. And when I was drained of energy, I didn't feel like doing any video editing. I just want to scroll Instagram or whatever. And so I tried finding anything that I could that would make my work days when I was working as a doctor more energizing. And I found that if I could just find a way to make it fun or to trick my brain into thinking it was fun, even though the work was the same, the way I approached it was very different, and that would just give me way more energy. So I started like doing random shit like, I would take a Bluetooth speaker into the doctor's office. I'd play like the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack, like I'd attach it to the ceiling light, just so some film and video game music is playing in the office. And occasionally people would comment on it, but like patients can't hear it, no one cares. It's like, it's good vibes, it's uplifting. I would add little jokes and stuff to my discharge letters that I'd write to other doctors to try and make them smile a bit. Normally discharge letters are kind of boring. You just sort of explain what happened to a patient while they were in hospital. But I would start doing things like, it was very disappointing. We wish Mr. Smith the speediest recovery and hope he can get and are delighted that he can get back to his cat Tabby, or whatever. Just like little comments like that, something about the cat, something about the football team the guy supports. That weirdly made my job feel way more energizing because I was having a bit of fun with it. I was still being professional, obviously, and still doing the job, and having a bit of fun with it. And I found that the more of those things I stacked up, the more responsibility I took, the more I decided to do things my own way, I suddenly had way more energy in the evenings. And with that energy, I was able to edit the videos and bang out stuff on the YouTube channel. And so that became like the guiding philosophy. Like, how do I make the thing fun? How do I become even more engaged with it? Because I think like, what I realized is like this, like if you're doing anything, there's like two ways of approaching it. And method A was how I used to approach medicine. Like when I worked as a doctor for the first few months. This was like the first 4 months. In that I would be like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, it's kind of hard. Like, I'm just an admin monkey. I'm just being told what to do. And I would think that the way I can conserve my energy is by doing the bare minimum. by just showing up and coasting. And if I just do what's expected of me, it'll be fine. And then I can do the thing I really enjoy in the evenings. But that method of operation where you're coasting along and not really giving it your all is actually way more draining. Like, it doesn't conserve energy, it really drains it, because we hate doing something where it's just like looking at the watch and like waiting for 5 p.m. to roll by. But the second method of doing it is like, okay, I'm here for a 9-hour shift. Let me give it my all. Let me be fully engaged. And there's a book, The Power of Full Engagement, written ages ago, that talks about this. Let me be fully engaged. Let me take responsibility for the patients. Let me be the one to like be proactive and try and find a way to make it fun and try and find a way to inject like my medical knowledge into this. Even though I don't have to, I'm going to choose to. And that, weirdly, I was putting in more effort, but getting way more out of it, becoming way more energized. And so that, like, before I had a team, that was the ultimate like time management productivity hack, finding a way to make work energizing. Because then I had loads of time in the evening to do YouTube videos. And then I'd speak to friends and they'd be like, oh my God, how do you have time to do a YouTube channel? I'd be like, I mean, everyone has time. It's energy that's the problem, because we all have time in the evenings. But I had so much energy by making it super, super, super fun. So that was what I did pre-team, and we can talk about post-team as well if that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm curious, like on the post-team side, like how you've kind of kept that fun, because I know there's a lot of people that start building out a team, more complexity, more people, more problems, you know, and it can quickly become draining. And I mean, that's where a lot of people give up and kind of pivot. I'm curious, like how things have changed now with the team and how you kind of keep it fun as a manager.
Yeah.
Especially now that you're going to be traveling the world, you got a lot of uncertainty going on, and kind of keeping it really dynamic as you travel around.
There is an analogy that one of our business mentors, Daniel Priestley, talks about. You should have Dan on the podcast. He's amazing. He's like knows everything about business. And he calls it the key person of influence model. And basically his model is that you have a team and you have your key person of influence. And you have a general manager, and that's the relationship. And so the analogy he uses is that your key person of influence is like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan should not be selling tickets. He should not be trying to manage the team. He should not be trying to sweep the floors. Michael Jordan should do whatever the fuck he wants, and then when it's time for the game, he goes and wins the game. And everyone benefits when Michael Jordan is just on the court when he needs to be. Underneath Michael Jordan, you have a general manager, and underneath the general manager, you have everyone else on the team. And in between your key person of influence and your general manager is a cloud. And the job of the general manager is to keep Michael Jordan above the clouds, so he's not dealing with the team. And the job of the whole team is to stay below the clouds so that they can deal with the stuff that's on the ground, so that Michael Jordan can stay in the clouds. And in the creator world, you know, for example, in our business, I am that key person of influence. I am the Michael Jordan, as it were, you know, somewhat grandiose analogy. But my job is to just show up and film videos and do podcasts and write books. That's all I need to do. If I'm managing the team, waste of time. Like, why am I managing the team? If I'm sweeping the floors, if I'm dealing with taxes, if I'm doing anything, what's the point? And so in the early days of building a team, I was managing people, and it was such a drain, exactly as you said. But thankfully, on the other side of that, like I had a few business mentors and stuff who were like, what you need to do is you need to hire a general manager. And so we ended up promoting one of our team members, Angus, to general manager. You need to get them to do all the managing. And so now, I don't manage the team. Like, people ask, how do you manage a team of 13 people? The answer is, I don't. Angus does. And I just swan around the world, writing books, doing interviews, making videos, speaking to other creators. And then once a quarter, we'll get together with the team. And I'll come up with all these ideas, but the ideas go in the bucket list. And every 6 weeks, we'll have a review, and we'll see which of these ideas do we want to take forward. And so that involves some discipline on my part, because in the past, I was very derailing of the team. I'd go to a Tony Robbins event and be like, guys, we're going to change up the whole business. But now it's more like, I'll go to the Tony Robbins event, come up with all these ideas, write them all down, put them in a Notion page. And 6 weeks later, I will have lost interest in all but like one. And that is the one idea that will be the thing that takes us to the next level. So I think, in a way, I am also a Justin Welsh solopreneur in that functionally, I don't really have a team. Angus has a team, and I just talked to Angus. But we benefit from the leverage of the whole team without the pain of me being the manager.
Before that manager stage, like I feel like that's when it's like really tricky for a lot of founders, right? Because, you know, you've started something, there's that initial kind of gumption and energy behind the new thing you're building.
Yeah.
You know, a year and a half in, things start to get a little trickier. You know, you've got a bigger team around you. It is just you doing all the things. You know, there's a lot of literature around there, like we've talked about, like around just like hustling harder and, you know, just being disciplined and getting after it. You know, how do you kind of see the whole joy side of things and only working on things that you would do if you made $100 million or had $100 million in the bank, like you said? How do you kind of start to make that shift in those early stages when you've got like 6, 7 people, you've talked about bringing on a general manager. Is there anything else like on the productivity side that people should be thinking about?
This old parable, I don't know how true this is, but I came across a story the other day, which is that apparently there were like a bunch of like world leaders who were in a room together, and someone asked all of them to write down a word on a piece of paper, what's been the secret to your success? And Bill Gates was there and Warren Buffett was there. And they took all the words in and they looked at them. And Bill Gates and Warren Buffett had both written the same word, and that word was focus. And I think that is the one. That's the thing. Like if I think of all the mistakes that I made when building the team, all of them can fundamentally be traced down to lack of focus. And okay, focus, clarity, and accountability. FAC, CAF, something, FCA, something like that. Focus, clarity, and accountability. There is an amazing book that changed my life when it came to managing people, and that is a weirdly niche one. It's called The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive by Patrick Lencioni. And it's a really short book. Everyone who's got a team should read it. Basically, it's like a parable of, it's like a parable, a story type thing. And there's this like CEO, and the way he manages his team is he just does 4 things. And he has them on a little card. And he's got a rival CEO who's like, how is this company outperforming? How are they doing so well? And he's like trying to do some corporate espionage to understand what these 4 things are. Number 1, build a cohesive leadership team. Number 2, create organizational clarity. Number 3, over-communicate organizational clarity. And number 4, create human systems to reinforce organizational clarity. And when I read that, I read it 2 years into like my journey of being a manager, and I realized that those 4 things, if I had actually done them, would have mitigated 98% of all the mistakes that I made as a manager. Because basically all of them stemmed from me not having clarity about where I wanted to go, and if I did, not communicating or not over-communicating that to the team. And even if I did that, on us trying to just do too many things, which stemmed from me not having clarity about where I actually wanted to go. And so there was a period where we had a team of 18 people. We were like, all right, what's the bottleneck to making YouTube videos? Writing, great, let's hire 4 writers, let's hire a YouTube producer, let's hire a videographer, let's pay insane amounts of money for this. And our output ground to a halt. Because we were just trying to do too many things. We were like, let's launch this YouTube channel and that, and this is working, so let's times this by 5, and this is working, so let's copy and paste this across the whole thing. And if in that time, clarity and accountability and communication and like focus, just like focusing, like what is the one thing? What is the main thing that we care about? Like what are the small number of things that will actually move the needle to get there? And someone spending all their time focusing on that, that would have been way more joyful than what it was. My experience of being the manager of the team was not that joyful. I found a way to try and make it fun and stuff, and it was good vibes, but like objectively the business sucked during those periods where we lacked clarity, communication, accountability, and focus.
I completely agree on the clarity and focus side. I mean, I feel like as you're scaling, focus is definitely like the scarcest resource you have. One part of the book I enjoyed a lot was, you talked about the experiment of getting an accountability partner or accountability coach. I feel like, early on scaling my businesses, that was one of the biggest hacks that I put in place, was like finding a coach that I really admired. Actually, at one point I tried 2 different coaches and figured, okay, I'll let both these guys give it a shot at it for the next like 90 days, see which one I resonate with the most, there's good chemistry with, we're doing good things, and then remove one, double down on the other, and kind of scale things up. I'm curious on your side, like who do you have around you that you've brought on board to kind of hold you accountable, and how do you go about finding that person?
2 years into my YouTube journey, I happened to be in the hospital, and I was just walking out of the front doors, and some random guy in his like 30s or 40s or something stopped me and was like, hey Ali, I recognize you from your videos. I had no idea who this guy was. And we kind of got talking a little bit, and turned out he was a business coach, and he was an executive coach for executives at like GlaxoSmith, like GSK, this huge pharma company that was on the site. And I was like, oh, what does a business coach do? And he was like, well, I help these guys make more money and do focus, all this kind of stuff. And he said, I'd be happy to do a free session with you and show you, if I can help. I was like, okay, I've never had a business coach. Sure, why not? And I went over to his place because he lived nearby. And those like 2 hours were some of the most game-changing 2 hours of my life, where he was like, okay, tell me about your business. And I started telling him about stuff. And he started drawing boxes on a page. He was like, okay, so it sounds like this is your YouTube production process, like idea generation, filming, editing, writing, editing. And he was like, okay, and how much of this are you doing? He was like, I was doing this, 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 this. He was like, okay, have you ever thought about hiring someone to do this, 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 this? And I was like, no. And like, it was a very basic accountability chart or like organizational chart, but I'd never heard the phrase org chart before. Even as a one-man band, you are wearing multiple hats and you're in these multiple different roles, and you can then start hiring and delegating those different roles. I did nothing like quarterly planning or annual planning, and so he took out a piece of A3 paper and he was like, humor me here, let's just make an annual plan. Let's figure out where do you want to go in the next 12 months. And I was like, whew. Initially I was like, yeah, but like YouTube is so uncertain, no one knows. And he was like, don't worry, every business is the same fundamentally. Like, you know, we can just come up with a plan. And we made an annual plan and we broke it down into quarters. And that was the time where I realized I should make an online course. And that was the thing that leveled up the business. That was the time I realized I should hire an editor. That leveled up the business. And so I sort of accidentally came into contact with a business coach. And then he and I kind of stayed friends, and he did a few pro bono sessions for me, which was very kind of him. And so after seeing the incredible impact that literally a 2 or 3 hour session had with a business coach, I was like, okay, this business coaching thing is legit. And so then over the last like 4 years, I have always had some sort of coach. And usually I find that I work with a coach for like 6 to 9 months, and then there's diminishing returns, and then I switch to someone else. It's just been so game changing to have someone who I meet with every week and who can just ask the hard questions and challenge me to do stuff, but also to show the unknown unknowns. Like my most recent coach is a guy called Eric Partaker. He's huge on LinkedIn now.
Yep.
And at the start, when we started working together, he gave me this like Google form assessment type thing, like founder assessment, something like that. I was like, okay, I'll just fill this in. And my score on this was like 30% or something. And it just immediately showed all of the 27 areas of the business where I was like, oh shit. One of the questions was like, if I asked everyone on your team what your mission is, would they all say the same thing? Absolutely not. If I asked everyone on the team, what are your core values? What would they say? Not the foggiest. What are you, where is a link to your dashboard? Like, what the fuck is a dashboard? You know, does everyone have a number? Nope. What are your OKRs? What's an OKR? What are your KPIs? What the hell is a KPI? Isn't that some corporate bullshit? And so over the last 12 months, we've started incorporating OKRs and KPIs and targets and everyone having a number and dashboards. And that's also been game changing. Because I was saying to Eric, man, yeah, it's really annoying. It's like, you know, we've got this team of 12 people and like, I don't really know what they're up to. And like, I don't know if they're actually wasting the time. And he was like, okay, do you have their goals written down anywhere? I was like, no. He was like, okay, let's do that. He was like, have you heard of OKRs? I was like, I've heard of them. He was like, okay, read this book. So hiring business coaches has been the single biggest ROI expense of my life. And I could not be more bullish about it.
Yeah, no, I've been bullish on that for a while. And actually, long story, like, but keeping it short, like I had gotten a pretty bad concussion when I was younger from playing hockey, and went to Dr. Amen here in LA to go and get my brain looked at. I had frontal lobe damage. It led to this whole kind of journey of like a bit of depression, anxiety, and then trying to sort through some of that stuff. And then was going to this like neurosurgeon to kind of talk a little bit more about that frontal lobe damage. And you know, it was interesting getting from a doctor. He's like, the one thing I'd recommend for you right now is getting a coach. And that one random recommendation from a doctor actually,
oh wow,
you know, really helped change a lot in my life. And
wait,
so,
how would a coach make a difference to like?
Well, I was just so lost in life,
yeah.
and I just was feeling so depressed. And
okay.
I was like, I tried all these different, you know, therapies and you know meditation and a bunch of different like supplements and stuff. And
yeah.
I was on that regimen and it was working and it was helping, but there was still something missing. Yeah, the kind of advice to get a life coach and kind of go from there was what then led me to testing out a couple people and really changing out the game. And I feel like they get a bad rap sometimes, and then it's interesting though to hear from someone like yourself as well that it's had like a big, profound impact on your business too.
Yeah, there are so many people I speak to who sort of have this thing of feeling lost in life, and you know, whenever they come to me for advice, my advice is often, look, if you can afford it, just hire a life coach. It's true that any 16-year-old can just call themselves a life coach, but you know, usually they offer free sessions, and you don't have to go for a 16-year-old. You can go for someone who seems legit. And whenever I've convinced someone to get a life coach, it's always been worth it, because just having someone there to ask you basic ass questions like, what do you want from life? And what are your goals? And where would you like to be in 5 years? Like genuinely, let's now make a plan to achieve that. And this is going to be like in the productivity course, but like basically all of productivity boils down to where are you trying to go? How are you going to get there? And how are you going to stay consistent? And so just setting a goal, making a plan to achieve the goal, and then finding a system to stay consistent, preferably with an accountability buddy and with a coach you've got that built in. Often that is all someone needs to make massive change in their life, but it's just not the sort of thing that you would spontaneously arrive at. It's not the sort of thing that you would do with your friends. And so hiring a life coach, ridiculously helpful.
Definitely a game changer. I was going and messaging a bunch of people on Twitter, and I was sharing as well with the community inside Founder OS, like, we're having Abdaal on the pod tomorrow, like, what do you guys want to know from him? And I thought one of the questions was good. They were asking that his new book on any productivity or hack, if he was to put that on a billboard, what would it be and what would it say?
Oh, can I have 2 billboards?
Yeah, they can be 2. Maybe they even interplay with them.
Maybe,
You got a title and thumbnail going on here.
One billboard would say that something like, the ultimate secret to productivity is to enjoy what you do. So find ways to make your work more fun, or words to that effect, because I think that is like needle moving. And I think the other thing when it comes to when it comes to tactics, I would put the phrase GPS. G for goal, P for plan, and S for system. Set a goal, make a plan, and find a system to achieve that goal. And so I've been playing around with that phrase quite a lot. I think that's going to be the foundation of our productivity course. And we're playing around with this in the team, like anyone in the team who owns an area of the business, which is everyone, for your area of the business, like the podcast or the YouTube channel or like our YouTuber Academy course. What's the goal for 2024? Where are we trying to get to? What's the plan? What are the broad brushstrokes of how we're going to get there? And what's the system? So what is the weekly activities and measurements that we're going to do to make sure we're on track? I think with those 3 things, broadly, productivity takes care of itself. And if you have fun along the way, then life is just great.
And when you think about, like, obviously the GPS system kind of works for short-term things, how do you kind of think about your own business and like the 10-year vision of where you're trying to take it?
Oh, yeah, people say you should come up with a 10-year plan for a business. I've never really vibed with that. And so I've always put pencil sketch some stuff.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Like,
it's so far out, yeah.
One of the ways I think about it is, I did this exercise the other day. I wrote out my obituary. I saw this thing, it was like, just write out your obituary. And I was like, okay, I was on a flight, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write it out. And that was really, 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 really helpful. I wrote like 5 or 6 paragraphs. I've got them on my phone if we want to read them out. But I think like it was so interesting being like thinking when I'm dead, what would I like my obituary to read? And it helped me realize that broadly the direction I'm going in with my business is the direction I do want to go. But it also helped me realize, damn, I need to spend more time with friends and family because that was a thing that I had been neglecting. And I think this is like one of those things where I guess the sorts of people who watch your stuff are probably quite work-oriented and like success and hustle and achievement and all that kind of stuff. And I'm very much like this as well, which is why I vibe with your stuff, partly. In the sense that we're all almost so fixated on work and productivity and like our business growing that we forget about, we underinvest in like relationships and friends, family, health even sometimes. So I definitely chronically underinvest in my health and sometimes underinvest in my relationships. And it's just a constant reminder anytime I read a book or speak to someone who's older than me and asking them like, hey, what do you wish you'd known? They all basically say, I should have taken my health more seriously, should have spent more time on relationships, and the work would have taken care of itself.
And on the health and relationship side, I know it's in the book, you talk about how those were a couple areas that kind of fell to the wayside when you were skilling things out. What were some kind of like GPS type tactics that you put in place to kind of fix those 2 areas?
Yeah, so on the relationships front, I'm a big believer in a sort of a time management strategy called the ideal week, which is you just open a new Google Calendar and you just map out what does your ideal week look like.
Yep.
And that's great because like it's all well and good having a to-do list, but a to-do list is infinite, whereas a week constrains you to 168 hours or however many hours there are in a week. And I realized, okay, on the relationships front, I want to have 2 date nights, Monday night and Thursday night. And so today's Thursday, so I've got date night after this. So that'll be nice. And that basically puts the relationship kind of quality time on autopilot because we have 2 evenings of quality time each week. I decided on the friendship front, I wanted Tuesday evenings and Sunday mornings to be like a dinner and a brunch with friends. And so when I was living in London and had a home base, most Tuesdays, either I'd invite friends over or we'd go out to dinner somewhere. Most Sundays, unless I was traveling, we would have some sort of brunch with my brother and my sister-in-law, and occasionally we'd invite friends over. And so that happened by default. I was like, great. So I'm like, on the health front, this is where I'm struggling because like right now I'm traveling and I haven't yet found a consistent way to just keep gym or working out in the calendar. And so I've been looking at like home workouts and all this stuff. But on the health front is where I really, really struggle. I think I'm pretty good at it on the relationship and the work front.
Yeah, the health side is definitely tricky on the go. I made a new rule to myself, which is I land in a new city, the first thing I'm going to do once I've kind of put my bags in my room is go and find a gym or find a spot that I'm going to go to. And I generally research it beforehand. So I arrived here in Venice.
Yeah.
I was debating between a few spots. I was like, all right, Gold's Gym it is. And so, put my bags in my room, all good. And like that first day when I first arrive, I'm going to go get a gym membership. and like do the walk to the gym or take the Uber, whatever it needs to be, so that I kind of like get used to like, okay, I'm here, this is there, I'm now going there, and I have a membership there, and this is going to be the routine. So that it doesn't become this thing that you've been there for a week, you feel like shit, you're super stressed, and you're kind of letting yourself go, and then you're like, oh geez, where do I go?
Yeah,
Trying to make that almost the first thing that you do.
That is a great idea.
You figure out when you get there.
Sick. I'm going to do that in Morocco because I'm there next week.
Morocco, no, I don't have any tips for finding a gym in Morocco. Maybe you're riding to camels, or who knows what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can. Yeah, I'm sure I can research it. Yeah, because this is the thing. Like, I think one of the other things around productivity is I always find it really helpful to separate the planning of the thing from the doing of the thing, because like right now, if I suddenly had an hour and I had to plan and then go to the gym, that's just never going to happen.
Right.
Like the amount of friction it takes to figure out where the gym is, get membership, blah, 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 and then do a workout while I'm there, I might as well just sit on my phone and scroll Instagram or something. But I love this idea of like planning ahead of time to be like, okay, I'll just go on Google Maps, type in gym and just see what's around there.
Yeah.
Even just that.
Yeah.
If I had done that before coming to LA, I'd have done way more workouts than I have, which is a grand total of 0.
Exactly. And so, yeah, no, you've been talking a lot about traveling. Obviously, I'm super excited for you. I think travel has been one of the greatest teachers of my life, and it sounds like you've done quite a bit too over your career, but you've officially announced that you're nomading it for the next 12
Yeah, I've done
months.
holidays here and there, but like this is the first time. Any tips for long-term travel?
Which area of it are you kind of most maybe nervous about, or
okay.
is it a gap you're trying to figure out?
What is a good amount of time to stay in a place?
Yeah, so it depends on your vibe. When I was younger, and about a decade ago, I went on a trip for 5 months through Europe and Southeast Asia. Every 3 days, I was in a different city. And while that was great for that time, being 21 and crazy and having a good time, like these days, my vibe is like, I want to be settled in somewhere at least 3 months. Get to know like a nice routine, get a good health routine going, like the gym I just mentioned, go and, make some friends, learn about the culture, be able to settle down a bit, not be in such a rush, and kind of like integrate into the place I'm at. So kind of slow traveling, still nomading it, but in a nice pace. And here in LA as an example, like, you can travel to Yosemite, go to Joshua Tree, Sequoia, like tons of stuff still around it to go and explore, but not be feeling like, okay, I'm here for 2 weeks, I gotta like, by the second you move in, you're already kind of off. Because what I find that's not much talked about in kind of the traveling side of things is I always find when I land in a spot, I feel a little weird for like 4 days or so. And in the kind of week I got to leave, I also feel a little weird. You got to kind of get packed, you got to move. It's a whole process, and it can be a little bit discombobulating. So trying to just stretch the amount of time you stay, I feel like, as much as possible, even just like a month and a half, 2 months, I think can do a lot for your happiness and just a sense of peace, especially while you're still doing a little bit of building and creating. To move a ton can be pretty exhausting.
Like so far it's been like a week here and a week there. It was meant to be, because I'd spoken to people and they were like, somewhere like 6 weeks to 3 months is a good amount of time. And I was like, so 6 weeks in Austin, 6 weeks in LA. And then random opportunities started to pop up, and I said yes to all of them, and now the calendar's a total shit show. So the goal after the book launches, so 2024 will be slow travel.
Nice.
And is there any travel gear that you find particularly helpful?
I mean, funny enough, I've been traveling around with all like the film equipment and all that, so that moved from like a hockey bag to now I got something more manageable. But in terms of that, I think it's like minimalism wins. Don't be buying stuff that you're not going to genuinely need, or else you just got to haul that crap around, right?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is just being very intentional about what you're traveling around with, which I actually think is one of like probably the healthiest parts of traveling so much, is that you don't get bogged down with a bunch of possessions. You kind of travel light, if you get something, kind of try to keep a rule too of like 1 in, 1 out. So like, okay, you get a new thing, that means you got to get rid of something old and give it to a friend. So you don't find yourself, having to worry about all these things you have and hauling them around.
Yeah.
So travel light. Curious on your side, like what are you most excited for from the journey, both like on a soul level and then, in terms of a couple locations that you're going to that you're stoked on?
From a soul level, I'm really excited to have, in theory, more blank space on the calendar. I think for the last several years, as the YouTube channel has kind of exploded and all these opportunities have come my way, I've just said yes to way too many things. And I'm glad I said yes to those things, but it was a very sort of output-focused season of my life. And I feel like I'm kind of tapped out now. Like, I need more time to read and have more experiences and do more things and maybe try and build stuff. And then when I have another output season, then maybe I'll write another book or something to that effect. I just love the idea of having more free time. And I was doing a sort of silent rest retreat in Colorado last week. And one of the days we spent in complete silence. So from, waking up in the morning up until like post-dinner, pure silence. And that was so peaceful. It was bliss. I finished reading Siddhartha. I started reading The Power of Now. I was like, went for a walk. It was great vibes. I just sat there on the sofa for like an hour, just like thinking, and came to some insights for the business, which was helpful and stuff as well. And it was just so joyful. So I want to incorporate more like days of silence into my life as well, like where there's less stuff going on. And I think this is partly the issue with the whole, like being in LA for a week. It's like, there's too many people to see in LA. And so having periods of silence it feels unproductive. But if I'm in LA for 3 months or wherever for 3 months, then I can be more like, hey, every Wednesday's a day of silence or whatever the thing might be. And then location-wise, planning to spend 2024 in Southeast Asia and like Far East and maybe China for a bit, maybe Japan for a bit. I'm super excited about like that part of the world.
Nice.
And I think it'll be interesting meeting new people, making friends on the road, all that fun stuff.
Well, if you need any recos in Japan, let me know. We were out there for 3 months and posted up, so happy to send you over everything from places to stay, restaurants, everything.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate it. That would be awesome.
And I want to appreciate your time today, man. I appreciate all the insights over the years. Learned a ton from you. Grateful to call you a friend, and appreciate you making time while you're dropping in here LA to come hang out. So
yeah, thank you so much. It's been super fun. Thanks.
Awesome.